Let's see how to enter timber bolts in CYPE Connect to solve a connection between two timber elements. To do this, starting from a previously created node, we select it in the table on the left-hand side of the interface and edit the connection by clicking on the corresponding button at the top. In the Connection pop-up window in the Model tab, we must specify the operations needed to define the connection. In this example, a plate has been entered onto the main beam B1. Then, a second plate has been added that is perpendicular and welded to the first one. Now, we are going to enter the timber bolts that will allow us to solve the connection between this plate and secondary beam B2. To do this, we open the Timber menu in the top toolbar and click on the Bolts option. In the first drop-down menu, we select whether the timber bolt connects a steel element and a timber element, two steel elements and an intermediary timber element, a single timber element and an intermediary steel element, as is our case, or two different timber elements and an intermediary steel element. Then, on the right, we select the timber element and the steel element from those available, either a section or a plate. In this case, it is beam B2 and plate 2. Below is a table where we define the number and position of the timber bolts. To enter the position of the timber bolts manually, we click on Add and enter their X and Y coordinates with respect to the local coordinate origin of the element. With the tools at the top, we can copy, delete, move, or delete all the elements in the table. We also have a tool to generate the timber bolts automatically. The help image that appears when clicking on it shows the local axes of the element, with the x-axis in red and the y-axis in green. In the different fields, we can type in the number of rows and columns for timber bolts, the initial spacing between rows and columns, as well as the spacing between each row and between each column. Then, we define the type of timber bolt. By clicking on the button on the right, we can select the series and the diameter from those available. We click Accept to confirm. If desired, we can click on the button with the name of the series and the diameter to modify their properties. Among them, at the top, we find the reference of the series and the nominal diameter. We can also modify the diameter of the thread, head diameter, and head thickness. We can then enter values in the table to indicate the length of the timber bolt and the length of the threaded part. We also define the parameters of the nut and washers used in timber and steel elements, including the series and nominal diameter reference, as well as the outside diameter, internal diameter, and thickness values of each element. We can also add a lock nut to the timber bolt by checking the corresponding box. In the following section, we indicate the timber bolt's material. In the same way, by clicking on the button on the right, we can select a material from those available and click Accept. If desired, by clicking on the button with the material name, a window appears where we can modify its reference, description, modulus of elasticity, yield strength, and fracture limit. Further on, we define the space between the bolt and the steel element, and the space between the bolt and the timber element. Finally, we can check the last box to reverse the direction of the bolt. From this point, we must add the rest of the operations needed to complete the model of the connection before being able to carry out its analysis.